one? That was Sylvia. There's three. Yeah. You have three. Two or three? I only have two. Three of those letters. Three of those letters. I don't have two. You got this one. I only had two. I had three. Oh, let me see. Was.
I have three letters.
Before we start, staff, can you verify whether we should have three letters that came in or two? Three of us have only two? I don't have a third one, but I need to read it very quickly. I have these three and they're different. Good evening. I would like to officially call the Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals to order. At this time, we will have roll call.
Ms. Fletcher?
Here.
Ms. Lundin?
Here.
Mr. Bushman?
Here.
Mr. Kessler? Mr. Harper? Here.
We have had an opportunity to review the minutes from our regular meeting held on August 3rd. May I have a motion for approval? Madam Chairman, I'll move that we approve the minutes. I second. It has been moved and properly seconded that we approve the minutes as recorded for our August 3rd meeting. Roll call.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Aye.
Ms. Lundin?
Aye.
Mrs. Bushman?
Aye.
Mr. Harper? Aye.
The minutes are approved as recorded. At this time, I see we have several people in the audience, and if by chance you didn't stop right outside the door to sign the roster to indicate that you participated in this deliberation, please do so. We appreciate your cooperation. This board is composed of 5 persons with 2 supernumeraries and is empowered by the Alabama State Legislature but appointed by the City Council and is discharged with hearing petitions for relief from a literal and strict application of the zoning code. Cases are heard in the order in which they are filed. Motions are made in the positive, and each case requires a positive vote of at least 4 members. A simple majority will not approve an action. The burden of proof for variances and special exceptions rests with the petitioner. Any party aggrieved by any decision of this board may within 15 days file a written notice of appeal to the circuit court. With that, I know that you've noticed there are only 4 of us. So what we do is we give the petitioners an opportunity to decide whether or not they will will allow their case to be heard by the 4 of us and making the decisions, which means each of us must vote positive for your request. Or you may wait until we have a full board, and there are 5 of us. So as we come to each of the cases, I will allow you to make that decision for yourself, okay? All right, with that, our first case is case number variance 2023-007, 133 Landers Drive. Brad Stoller is requesting a variance to section 5-5A of the zoning ordinance to permit an accessory structure within the side yard of the property, and a variance to section 5-9D to permit an accessory structure to exceed 25% of the floor area of the dwelling unit. And I think in both of these cases, we will hear you, but we will probably entertain the motion in 2 parts. So the variance voting will be separate. Okay, with that, will the person who is presenting our first case, the one I just referenced, please come to the mic and identify yourself. Okay, and as you begin, I would like for you to remind you that the burden is on you to show a hardship. That's the instructions is given to that committee, and that is definitely what we are looking for. So please keep that in mind as you make your presentation.
All right, thank you, ma'am. First of all, I do actually want to say thank you, like all the people that I've worked with here at the zoning, the board, have been absolutely wonderful here in the building. Been very, very helpful with all of this. So basically I'm looking at trying to build my dream shop, hence kind of like the size of it. And the size, if the board doesn't approve that size, I'm kind of open to adjustments of trying to maybe shrink it down a little bit. So the first part that I wanted to talk about was actually the location on the side yard. Section 5-9A talks about the primary purpose is to reduce visibility for the primary structure. We have a very unique lot, and the location, even though it is on the side yard, is actually gives additional privacy to our neighbor, especially from like our second story kind of looking down. We made a comment to him about when we were talking about putting the shop in that location, that we wouldn't be able to look into his backyard. His response is that we wouldn't be able to see him gardening in his birthday suit. So you can actually see that it is, I have a picture here, if I can bring that on up to you and show it to you. Yeah. So you can see that the structure is actually behind his garage. So when you're driving in on the road, the structure is actually hidden by his garage. Since this is the main way in, since there's only 10 houses, it's actually outside of the view if you're driving up on the road.
Okay, thank you.
Show this to you as well. So the main access is right here. So when you're driving on up, his garage that's referenced, it is that further back, plus with the trees, you really can't see it when you're driving in. If you take a look in section C from the staff report, they actually talk about this lot being a little bit unusual. We only have about 50 feet of street frontage, so it makes it a little bit awkward. In fact, when I actually originally submitted everything, there was some confusion on where I needed to set back and how far, just because of the difference between the side yard and the backyard. Originally to the east, there was some thinking that I would not need a 15-foot setback. which I completely understand. It's, like I said, this is not your standard square lot. So, since we are on that corner, it's a little bit funny if you take a look and depending on how we had orientated the house when it was built. To the left, if we would have orientated it that way, the shop would be in the front yard. If we orientated it to the house that's to the right of ours, it actually would be in the backyard. It's a little bit.
Since you had an opportunity to review staff report, the first thing I'd like to highlight a couple of things. And the first statement, and get your response to you. The city will not approve a home occupation consisting of auto repair or carpentry work.
Yes.
What's your response to that? Since it's a stated statement, a positive statement, they will not. So.
Yes. No. So any of the work that I'd be looking at doing in there, this is just, like I said, my dream hobby shop. So the Mr. Blizzard's team actually reached out to me specifically asking me some of those questions. Any auto work that would be done in there would be like changing the oil in my truck or my car, brakes, nothing automotive there. I do a lot of woodworking. So part of the shop is basically really want to set something up that I don't have to go through and move all of my tools if I need to bring my car in to work on it.
Well, I don't know, and my committee will have comments. I don't know whether the statements that you've made presents a hardship that would justify a request where it's starting 2,500 square feet instead of 1,000.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. And then the other thing that I'd like for you to address, the recommended staff, we commend them all the time because they work with our petitioners to try and do something so that they, first of all, can keep them from having to hear. At least the request would be realistic.
Yes.
So in that regard, as with the options that were discussed with you, would you give me an explanation as to why none of them will work for you?
So in Section C, they actually state that they can understand how the southeast corner is the most favorable location, first of all. And then they had also stated that the septic field, so if the shop is in the northeast corner, that I couldn't have a path back to there because of the septic field. I can't put a driveway or drive vehicles over top of the septic field. So the options on that would be to move the septic field, which would be very expensive.
Do you, on your, on your picture that you showed us just a little earlier, probably is draw where the septic field is on that.
I actually can show that to you, ma'am.
Okay, I beat you to it.
So your drawing does not have the driveway to the proposed structure. Would you tear the trees down to put one there?
So that was actually something else that I was going to talk about, because I had been looking at options once I saw the staff report, one of which was trying to get access from Silo Road into the property, and that had a lot of complications with it as well. So that shows the septic field. The other issue is there's actually some low spots in the property. And when the house was built, our builder kind of put some dirt up against the house and actually went in that low spot. Originally, I was thinking, okay, you know what, I might kind of smooth that out, fill some dirt in on there, and then we had a very big heavy rain, and I realized why our builder did what he did, and that was basically drainage. So basically kind of starting around the house, and I have it on that picture, shows the low spot where the water flows. And it actually goes to the east side of the property where those trees are at. There's a berm, kind of hits that, and then it runs along the side going south. So trying to do a driveway or anything along those lines, even if I move the septic field, would cause problems with the drainage. So I can show you on this.
I think that's okay. I think my question is, you built this home? You had a builder.
We had a
build it.
builder that built it, yes.
Your lot, you designed the house that you wanted and,
Yes.
and the layout. So, you know, for us, we're trying to figure out this hardship is something that, and this dream, obviously, and that was in 2020. I think the permit was, building permit.
Yeah, we
was
moved,
in 2020. So, sounds like in 3 years you kind of rethought what your dream is. So for us, we're sitting here trying to figure out how to justify a hardship, in my personal opinion, that you created when you designed your own layout of the house and where the septic tank is and where, you know, all those things. So that, I just kind of wanted to clear up that this was a design.
Question, because I didn't
Yeah.
think about whether he had personally designed it. Any more, questions from my, board? Do we have, all right, do we have anybody who's in?
Oh,
you have-
so, yeah, so in addition to the drainage, kind of, that's roughly where the low spot is that I was referring to, and then there's the septic system. So the drain, water generally kind of flows this direction and down the bottom.
I think the septic was on another one of the pictures that we had.
I'm talking about these trees right here.
That is a shadow from this tree right here.
All right, so you have no trees on your property, so you'll build another driveway from here to your new house?
Yeah,
or
so
the
basically,
structure?
what we were looking at doing was, you know, again, you kind of come in here, you do a turn, and then it's very easy to back up. So we'd be looking at putting kind of a driveway back to here.
Was that in the plans, the driveway?
We did not have it drawn, I didn't know that I needed to have it drawn.
I was just curious.
Something that I had discussed with the, Mr. Blizzard's group.
I think I might have one more question. The staff recommended that you could reduce the size, and relocate this to the rear yard. I know you're talking about the septic tank,
Mm-hmm.
but again, this is kind of a self-created hardship that's not bought this house or whatever, so, you don't want to make it smaller to coincide and fall within the requirements of the code?
I actually was not aware of the requirement, honestly, until I filed everything, so I have kind of learned a lot. I also know that in the not knowing the requirement is not an excuse.
Right, and then you could also build an addition to the house rather than a freestanding?
Yes.
Okay, so,
So I did actually look at kind of like options of maybe kind of shrinking it, and part of what it is a third of what I'm looking at building is actually just kind of a lean-to for covered parking. Trying to.
it's just nice for me to reaffirm that you have options.
Yes, yes. And I have been trying to look through all the different options before I came here. And I have looked at, you know, if I don't put the lean-to on there and maybe just have like gravel parking, you're playing around with the size of maybe just having a 1,200 square foot. I will fully admit that when they said that it was 59% the size of the house, I kind of did didn't quite realize that one.
Hobbies can get expensive.
Yes, they can. So, I think it was my mother that said the difference between men and boys is the price of the toys.
Absolutely.
The other thing with this is I am looking at putting a bathroom and a shower in there, and that is for my wife more so that I can clean off before I come in the house and I don't track everything into the house.
Again, that sounds like a personal problem. We won't go there.
Other comments?
So one other thing, and this is more of like trying to put the shop in that northeast property. Here. So from here, if you're standing on the road, looking this direction, this is where that picture is at. There's about a 7-foot berm, and then there's several trees in there that if I was able to get an easement, because I'm not actually sure who owns that property. I think that's part of the fairway through there. So it would be, I counted it as about 8 to 12 trees is what would have to be cut down to try and build a path in there, and then also it being an 8-foot drop, trying to go up. In addition, in
some of those statements, considering those, it would maybe less expensive to you if you would consider the recommendation being presented by staff.
You're referring to putting it in the back?
Well, reducing it in size and relocating it to the rear yard, yes.
So my concern on that is, one, I don't know if I'll be able to get an easement for that property. Also, cutting down a lot of those well-established trees. And then in addition to that, the storm drain and the light pole that I don't honestly know if there's enough room in there between the property line and where those are at to put a driveway.
Okay. Do we have anybody in attendance in the audience who would like to make a statement regarding this request? Anybody? If not, staff, did we have any phone calls or letters in reference to this case? Okay. Board members, any additional questions? Okay, if not, I will prepare to entertain a motion for approval.
And you want this in two motions?
Well, it kind of decides on what happens with the first one. I did say that when we have, because one would not be,
Do y'all prefer how we make the motions on this?
because if the
Can we
first
make
one is
one?
not approved, then,
Two.
So if there is a issue with the size, I would be very interested in hearing kind of what would be acceptable. Would a 1,200-foot kind of building?
I don't think we should.
Yeah, I think that's something you'll have to, would have to,
Group making that decision when.
Okay.
Better not do that.
I haven't done this before, so I wanted to ask.
Okay. Okay, board, I entertain the motion. Anybody?
all right, Madam Chair, case number variance 2023-007, I make a motion to approve for the address of 133 Landers Drive, a variance to section 5-9-A of the zoning ordinance to permit an accessory structure within the side yard of the property.
Is there a second? Second. It has been moved and properly second that in case number variance 2023-007, 133 Landers Drive, be granted a variance to section 5-9A of the zoning ordinance to permit an accessory structure within the side yard of the property. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Fletcher.
Nay.
Ms. Florentine.
Nay.
Mrs. Bushman.
Nay.
Mr. Harper. Aye.
All right, the first one is not approved because we didn't have a full vote part. All right, the second part, please.
Madam Chair, this is the second part to case number variance 2023-007, the request for a variance to section 5-9-D to permit an accessory structure to extend 25% of the floor area of the dwelling unit. These requests are in accordance with section 10-5 of the City of Madison zoning ordinance.
Second. It has been moved and properly second in case number variance 2023-007, that a variance to section 5-9D be granted to permit an accessory structure to exceed 25% of the floor area of the dwelling unit. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Fletcher.
Nay.
Ms. Florentine.
Nay.
Mrs. Bushman.
Nay.
Mr. Harper. Nay.
Okay, I'm sorry. About to it.
Get with these guys, consider
Oh, yes.
reducing that, and
come
they
back
will.
if you need something to the other part.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, we're ready for the second case on our agenda, case number variance 2023-008, 505 Carter Drive. It's requesting a variance to section 4-2-3.1 to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 36 feet. Then we'll take two different votes, but you may present your case, with the second part being a variance to section 4-2-3.2 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 8 feet. And please identify yourself.
I'm Terry Madden. The reason for the request for variance on 4231 was to add a porch to my steps. Over the years, we've had a lot of rain damage to our floor, and I've had floor joists replaced. It gets very hot also, and it has done some warpage around my front door, and it's very hot to touch the handle when trying to open in the door. So by adding a porch, it would give us a little bit of protection from the glaring heat that's been applied to that front. Also, the damage from the rain pounding on the front door and my floor joists that will solve that problem. My steps are 4 feet deep, so it's not really a huge porch that we're talking about. It's just to cover my steps, and it'll be a little wider than it is now. I think it's 5 feet. We're looking to make it about 14 feet wide to allow for a chair or two to sit out there. So that's it for that one. On the second one, 4232, we recently added a family room to the back of our property. The exit door from the garage was on that side, so that kind of swallowed up that door. I had to make an exit door on the east side of our property, and that's where I would like to have my carport, so that we could exit from the house into the garage, straight out into the carport, and get out of the elements and protect our cars when hail or whatever happens due to weather. We also have a very small single-car garage, so if I wanted to pull a car in there due to the accumulation of memorabilia and storage from our kids, there's not any way you could get a car in that garage. So if I had to do anything to a car or whatever to get out of the elements, I would like to have at least a roof over my head while I'm doing it. So that's my request. Appreciate your time.
Okay, as you consider what your decision is going to be, just look at the numbers, as we make our consideration. And then, of course, we want to look at staff's recommendation as well, which I know you've already done. So are there board members with specific questions?
I think I have one, just so I can be clear. The proposed addition,
Yeah.
you said, is now your family room.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And I know the staff recommendation was that you could move the carport to the back of the yard. Could you not have a door going from that family room into the carport that way?
No. Our entertainment center is on that wall, and there's no windows or anything. It's going to take up that wall. So this would be on the north side. And if I had to put a carport all the way back around my house, I'm really getting back out into the elements to come back into my house.
Well, and that's why I was asking, was there any
Yeah.
Ingress
No,
into
unfortunately.
the addition that you built on the new family room? Okay.
No.
All right, that answered that for me.
Any other questions from board? Do we get any emails or phone calls or anything from, okay, is there anyone in attendance this afternoon to address this particular request? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. And this is in case number variance 2023-008. The first part of it is requesting a variance to section 4-2-3.1 to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 36 feet. Roll call vote.
Let me make the motion.
I thought I was repeating the motion.
All right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Madam Chair, in reference to case number variance 2023-008, 505 Carter Drive, as requested by Chairman Madden, I will make a motion to approve a variance to section 4-2-3.1 to reduce the front setback from 40 feet to 36 feet.
Is there a second? It has been moved and properly second in case number variance 2023-008, 505 Carter Drive, be granted a variance to section 4-2-3.1 to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 36 feet. Roll call.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Aye.
Ms. Lawrendine?
Aye.
Mrs. Bushman?
Aye.
Mr. Harper?
Aye.
The first part has been approved, so let me do the second one. I entertain a motion for approval, case number variance 2023-008, to grant a variance to section 4-2-3.2 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 8 feet.
Madam Chairman, as the second part of this case, variance 2023-008, located at 505 Carter Drive, I make a motion to approve the variance to section 4-2-3.2 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 8 feet. These requests are in accordance with section 10-5 of the City of Madison zoning ordinance.
Roll call vote.
I second.
Give me the case. Roll call.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Aye.
Ms. Lawrendine?
Aye.
Mrs. Bushman?
Aye.
Mr. Harper?
Aye.
Estimate, your requests have been approved, and you can coordinate with staff and get them your paperwork.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, board members, we're ready for case number variance 2023-009, directly north of 110 Fieldview Lane, requesting a variance to section 4-6A6 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 5 feet. Okay. Let me check. Hold it just a minute. I got the wrong paper. Okay, I'm ready. With the person who's presenting it, please identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is Luke Matthias. I work for Morrell Engineering. We're here on behalf of B&K Property Group. They also have somebody here that may want to speak to you all. But I was going to present kind of the hardships and then let them kind of touch on a couple other reasons that they're requesting this variance. So I believe you all have the proposed site layout for this this particular site. The main hardship that we have in our kind of wanting to present is that this particular piece of property has a required connection to the back, which is Fieldview Lane, and it's also got the cross-access easement along the frontage of the property. With that second required connection, we have, you have a required 24-foot wide drive aisle, which greatly impacts the width that you can build on as far as your structure. And their proposed structure for this specific site is 88 feet wide. So I was just kind of running some calculations as well, looking at this. If you were to, I guess, allow a one-way 15-foot wide drive aisle, we could shift the building up to the 15-foot setback, but with the 24-foot wide required drive aisle, that kind of limits the amount of buildable area that we have and width of the building. So I guess obviously that's kind of the main reason that we're bringing this to you. I guess in addition to the staff report, I know that the reasoning for the 15-foot setbacks is for your fire safety, to have distance between your buildings, but we do see that on to the south of this particular site, there's already a oil change facility built. That building is actually about 35 feet to the south of the property line, and it's moved to the east side, which is towards County Line Road, as you can see on that layout. So we do have fire access to all sides of the building with the current layout, as well as your safety, your fire safety and access, you know, away from these buildings. So that's kind of the main, things that we wanted to bring up and point out in this specific site. We know it doesn't conform with the 15-foot side setback, but we see that can be reduced with the current site conditions of what's built to the south and what's being built to the north. And if there was more property to purchase to the north, they would definitely be open to that, but that's already sold as well, so they're kind of stuck with this last piece of property to develop on. And it is a, you know, I know this doesn't affect you all, but it is a pretty expensive piece of property. They just kind of wanted to point that out as well. But that's pretty much everything that I had to present as far as a hardship. We know that the staff has reasons for not approving this, and we understand those reasons as well, but wanted to at least ask for y'all's consideration on this.
Okay, I think I got the last part about it being the last piece of property. But when you started off, I thought you were giving us, what you could request to, but then you switched over. So were you proposing what you could do in a part of it to meet this requirement, or was this just general information for us?
More general information as to, we have to have a double drive, like a two-way drive access on the north side of the building to connect to Fieldview Lane. So that's, I guess, you know, kind of that limits the building, or the width of what we can develop on this property. So that was kind of the hardship. Now, I did mention that if a one-way was allowed, you know, and if that was an option, then, you know, that we could meet the setbacks on this particular layout.
I'm sorry.
Can I clarify something? Because you said they were stuck with this fixed property. I mean, this is a piece of property that they've already purchased, is that right?
Not stuck with this piece of property. This has not been purchased.
It has not been purchased.
No, it's under contract, yeah.
It's upon your, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha, okay, all right, you said.
No, I meant they were stuck with the south and the north boundary, as in they couldn't, you know, purchase any more property to make it larger.
Staff, with that last option, when he talked about the road, the direction, one way as opposed to two way, that one could not be? Okay. Okay.
So it's about 125 feet wide. You know, you take off the 15-foot setback, you're down to 110, and then, you know, you're 24 feet, and then your landscape buffers and everything on the north side, it just greatly reduces that buildable width.
I guess the question remains for me, I mean, can you not reduce the size of the building to, I mean, because this is, you're looking for the perfect case scenario.
Yes.
You're designing
Yeah.
it, and, but again, where it's located on, fire department has their recommendations. We are, their requirements, they're not recommendations.
Yep.
We have to follow, but, you know, there's things that concern stormwater, drain, runoff, you know, from lots.
Yeah, yeah.
You're on the corner there, I drove out there this afternoon. And, being in real estate for a while, I kind of know what I'm looking at when I see it.
Yeah.
So, in looking at it and judging where the, oil change company is located, it just seems like all you have to do is reduce the size of the building.
Yeah, I will, I would let, if the, representative, the owner representative wants to touch on that, I'll let him, you know, I'm just,
Okay.
this is, you know, but, I don't know.
Another struggle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. My name's Kevin Knight. I'm an owner in B&K Property Group. So, and again, you know, it's a hardship in our eyes. It may not be in yours, but the type of structure we're trying to put here for the tenant that wants to be in this location, requires a certain size building, and we cannot reduce it. I mean, that's the problem. It's either we get your guys' approval and we move forward, or we're forced to go to another location, which will probably be in possibly another town, you know. So we really need to get that square footage to hit the sales revenue, you know. So it's a national tenant.
And is it because they require that corner lot? Is that, I mean, because, like I said, being over there, there's.
They certainly love the corner lot. They certainly, yes, they do like the corner lot. But, you know, one of the biggest issues, and again, I know this is by no means a hardship and you guys could care less, but, you know, the price of these properties here and to build the structures and then to meet these regulations, these guidelines is getting so difficult, you know, with the parking requirements, the setbacks, and we have to build certain footage to get the sales numbers up, you know, to hit all these requirements. But I don't know if that helps you out. Certainly love the site. It's just we got to get these two items to make it fly, you know. And obviously he made it clear we currently do not own the site. We have it under contract, and this is, you know, our last little due diligence, and so that's what we're trying to achieve.
Staff, I'm sure that all of those concerns were shared with you before you prepared the report for us. Did anything new come up that you weren't aware of that would impact your recommendation? Okay. Any other questions from board members? Number 9. Okay. Let me find it. Okay. Was this shared with them? Has this letter been shared? No, I got that today. Okay, we did have one letter with a concern, and it was submitted to staff. And it says, on behalf of Strickland Brothers 10-Minute Oil Change and DCTN 3546, Madison, Alabama, would like to state our opposition to case number variance 2023-009. And we know what we're seeking the variance to, but here is the justification. As owners of 110 Fieldview Lane, directly south of this proposed development, we have concerns that a variance to the parking requirements will interfere with our business operations. We believe this development at minimum needs to provide enough parking spaces to meet code, if not provide additional parking spaces exceeding code, to properly accommodate all employees and customers. If this variance is granted, we would anticipate Dollar Tree employees and customers parking on our parcel in parking lots in front of our building due to the shortfall, as well as the close proximity to our spaces to their front door. This would interfere with our visibility and our own parking needs, which would have a negative impact on Strickland's business. In addition, our recorded agreements and documents provide that each parcel shall provide enough parking spaces to satisfy its own needs without the benefit of utilizing another property's parking spaces, and that the owner should not be allowed to interfere with adjacent businesses' parking requirements. Finally, our operator would not have to take on the additional burden of monitoring our parking to ensure proper parking on our parcel because the site is not properly parked. Thank you for your consideration, Royce Barrington, N3 Property Advisor. Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience who came to speak to this case? Anybody else? Okay. Do we have any other comments from the petitioner?
I think that's it. I was just going to say, we've never had an issue with the overflow parking like that. I mean, it's, you know, it's just not that type of retail outfit. But I understand their concern. I mean, I do. But we've never had an issue with that at any point.
Well, what was the justification for requiring approval with your having only 29 parking spaces? Was there some other way that the second part may not have been needed, a variance?
It was so we could meet the requirements, correct?
Was there some other way you could have met the requirements without asking them to be reduced?
There was not really any different way to lay this out, just with the current, cross-access easement that kind of limits the way, the way that you can lay out the actual parking lot with the cross-access, so, and I guess I can mention, if there is a way, to gain some more spaces, we might be able to make that work, we might be able to work that out to get some additional spaces, but, the side yard setback, we're still, I guess we're both asking these to be treated separately as variances.
And we will,
Okay.
we will make the motion separately.
Okay.
The landscape buffer, it's not, that's not something that's interfering with their parking, is it? Yeah, but it's not a,
Yeah.
Would you give us a succinct statement again of what you considered your hardship?
Yeah, just the, I guess with the existing cross-access easements and the required access to Fieldview Lane, with a double aisle, which makes it 24 feet, it reduces our ability to, our buildable width with the side yard setback on this lot. So the hardship is just the second access, the required second access. If we could close that off, and not have a connection to Fieldview, we could move the building over. But just with, and I still think we would be able to meet the fire code because you have access to all the buildings from roads in your parking lot, but.
What were you saying with the movement proposal, you would be able to adhere to that? Is that what you're saying?
If we're required to have that second access to Fieldview Lane, so, from fire, so that's kind of the hardship, which limits the width that we can, the width of the building that we can put on this lot.
But that's outside of us because of the fire department code. Yeah, we can't.
we're trying to help you here. I mean, I'm replaying everything, back in my head, and I hadn't found that switch yet.
Because even with your saying that you may be able to address the parking spaces, especially since we had a letter of concern with that, you didn't have an alternative to reduce the number of feet that you're asking for the variance for, so that makes it
Can I ask,
15 to 5.
I know that Dollar Tree has different, for different locations. Asheville, North Carolina has a separate design and their restrictions are so tough. Me, 20 years in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, there's several Dollar Tree stores there, and they have different designs. It's just hard for me to think. I would encourage y'all to look at another design. We'd love to have it. We'd love the tax dollars, but for me personally, I still can't find. I still agree with staff, but we would love to see y'all find a way to work this out with another store design because, like I said, I can name off several in my head, and they're very well done. So I just wanted to just put that out there. All right, Madam Chairman, I'm gonna be quiet now.
Well, I heard the same thing. It
Be quiet now.
seems simple, but
We're just gonna do what we have
it's
to do.
hard. Okay, no other comments, questions? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion for.
We're gonna do this in two parts? Yes, okay. Anybody else want to have this?
Okay, okay. We can do it in two though, but, okay. Statement of the motion, please.
Can you try one?
Sure.
All right. I move for case number variance 2023-009, directly north of 110 Field View Lane, B&K Property Group, LLC, a variance to section 4-6A-6 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 5 feet.
Is there a second? Second. It has been moved and seconded that in case number variance 2023-009, that B&K Property Group LLC be granted a variance to section 4-6A-6 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 5 feet. Are we ready for the motion? Okay. I will have the vote.
Roll call.
Roll call. I'm first.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Nay.
Ms. Lorendine?
Nay.
Mrs. Bushman?
Nay.
Mr. Hart?
Nay.
But that one is denied because you couldn't get 4 positive votes. So let's do the second part.
I request a motion for case number variance 2023-009, directly north of 110 Field View Lane, B&K Property Group, a variance to section 5-15-1 to reduce required parking from 33 parking spaces to 29 parking spaces.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. In case number variance 2023-009, B&K Property Group, we grant a variance to section 5-15-1 to reduce the required parking spaces from 33 spaces to 29 parking spaces. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Fletcher?
Nay.
Ms. Lorendine?
Nay.
Mrs. Bushman?
Nay.
Mr. Hart? Nay.
Sorry, we tried.
Y'all go work on that. Work on that design.
Yeah, come with something else and try us again. Okay, thank you. All right, we're ready for case number variance 2023-010, 29958 Hardeman Road. Harold Artis is requesting a variance to section 4-11-3.2 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 2.25 feet. And we'll, and a variance is section 5-9.d to increase the proportionality of an accessory structure to the primary dwelling from 25% to 47%. Would the persons who are going to make the presentations identify yourself?
I'm Harold Ortiz, and I'm here with my wife, Christy Harris. We are the owners of property 29958 on Hardeman Road. Good evening to the board. Thank you for having us here to listen to our position. I do have a concern, and during the research of everything we needed to apply for the variance, we noticed that there is a Brenda Bushman that lives in Brighton Park behind. Okay. Can you assure us that there is no bias absolutely whatsoever so we can go forward tonight, or do we have to come back and file another day and do this another day?
No, there is no bias. Have we ever met before?
No.
No. You are not part of the Brighton Park Homeowners Association?
No.
No. All right. Like I said, we've never met before, we've never talked before.
Yes.
I was just going to add that as far as members of the ZBA, you're only required to recuse if you, in fact, are maybe related by blood, maybe by marriage, if you have some sort of business interest or a financial interest. But basically, the directive that the State Ethics Commission and the case law that I've looked at says that there is no obligation to recuse just simply for being in a community and maybe having observed something individually on your own. So after understanding what that there was maybe some proximity, I guess, as far as between where this variance is being requested and the residence, I don't see any mandatory reason to recuse or any sort of conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Do you want to proceed? Yes?
Yeah,
Okay. As I said, thank you for listening to us. We recently moved from a subdivision that has an HOA, which we found incredibly restrictive. We own a motorhome, and we could not park it in the driveway, and we cannot park it on the sidewalk. We own 4 cars. That house has 3 garages. That property does not allow you to park a vehicle in the driveway or on the street, and which is the main reason why we left and we started looking for a property, and we found the 29958 property, which we believe was going to allow us give us a space to house our vehicles and house our belongings. We've purchased our permit, or excuse me, we purchased our carport. Prior to purchase our carport, we did the research with Limestone County, and we asked the gentleman from which we bought the carport if there was any permit requirements that he was aware of. He was not. We purchased the carport. The carport manufacturer, about 2 weeks later, called us and said that they could not deliver or install the carport because they needed a permit. And I explained to them that I looked it up with the city, excuse me, with the Limestone County, and they said, no, you have to apply with the city. We were unaware of that requirement. That led us to contacting the building department, and we applied for the permit for that carport. So this is when things get interesting. So we purchased a 35 by 32 carport, which included the RV portion and I guess what you call a lean-to attached to it to park the 2 other vehicles. As I said, we have 4 vehicles. The motorhome will take the 1 slot on the right, which is the large RV portion, and the one to the left would house the 2 other vehicles. 2 other vehicles will be housed in the garage attached to the house. One particular vehicle is not running, and it cannot be parked on the side, excuse me, in the driveway in accordance with the ordinance. So it has to remain in the garage. As I say, we purchased the carport. We submitted the plans, the construction plans, as they were given to us from the manufacturer. I sent it in to Callie Zimmerman, I believe her name is, and she wrote back to us and said that she didn't understand our request because we were requesting for a 35 by 32 carport, but the construction plans that the company provided said 30 by 20, and that's when we were a little confused. There's quite a bit going on at the moment. We're moving from an old house to the new house. My mother just passed away from cancer, and putting the house on the market. So we may have made a few errors, and I believe this is where we made one in particular. We assumed that that plan was what we purchased, the 30 by 20 per the construction plan. We reviewed our invoice, and it does list a base price for a 30 by 20. So
35 by 20.
I'm sorry, no, 30 by 20. The standard generic construction plan, which we found out is what they provided us. So we therefore thought that's what we purchased at the moment, and send that updated drawing, the site plan, to Callie Zimmerman, and she said that that would be okay, but the larger one would not be because it would exceed the 25% requirement of the dwelling. Where was I? So that's what got us into the mess in the first place. In preparation for the carport, we hired a contractor to extend our driveway, which is in line with the existing driveway, and install a parking pad, which is also in line with the existing driveway. The parking pad on the right, which is where the RV would be housed, has specific reinforcements for the footing, and on the left, it was a specific foundation where the lean-to would be so that it can house the 2 vehicles, but more importantly, we plan on putting a in-ground tornado shelter in that area. Where was I? Maybe? Yes? Oh, the driveway. So that give you an idea of where the driveway is and where the carport's going to go. So we had the concrete installed, as I said, reinforced, specifically in certain areas where the carport sits. We later purchased a 12 by 16 foot storage shed to store our belongings that do not any longer fit in our home or garage, as we downsized quite a bit from a 3,600 square foot home to a 2,600 square foot home approximately. Construction began on July 31st. On the second day of construction, a city code enforcement officer appeared at our house and said that the carport was too close to the setback, I believe is what he said, and that I needed to contact Shannon Wilkins with the building department. I contacted the building department, and they made us aware that we had to apply for a variance because we were out of what we requested in the initial permit, which was requesting a 4-yard setback.
4-foot setback.
Rather, 4-foot setback, excuse me, versus what is actually presently there. So we set forth to take all these measurements. We bought a little measuring wheel to make sure we were submitting the variance with the actual measurements of what we had purchased and what we had built. That's when we realized that we made an error in the initial submission, asking for the 30 by 20 generic, in accordance with the generic construction plan, and we adjusted it in accordance with the actual measurement. So the carport measures 35 by 20, and it sits what we believe to be 2.25 feet from the setback, or it's a 2.25 foot setback from the property to the south. That property to the south is Limestone County property, and is not in the city of Madison. They have no easements, and they have no setback. The lean-to measures 35 by 12, and it sits, the carport in the lean-to, excuse me, sit exactly 5 feet from the rear, so a 5-foot rear setback, and I believe that's within the ordinance.
Can you repeat those measurements just real quick? That last one, the lean-to size is?
The lean-to size is a 35 by 12.
Didn't want to interrupt you, but I was just trying to make notes of something.
Please do. This was going to be a speech, but I figured we'd watch and see how everybody else did it, and I'm amending on the fly. So the parking pad was specifically chosen due to the location of our septic tank. The only thing we had to go off our septic tank was the sewage disposal system permit, number 4403501. However, the two drawings do not reference any distances from the dwelling. So they have an approximate area, but not an exact area. Our contractor was wary of building the parking pad any further north or west, bringing the angle that would meet the entire large driveway, the parking pad, and said he was not willing to move it anymore. And we believe that's why it sits closer than the 4 feet than we initially asked, because that's what we had asked the contractor, was for a 4-foot setback, not the 2.25 that we got. But we believe the septic tank system creates a hardship for us for placing that parking pad any further north or west. Therefore, having for us to take even more of the setback, which turned out to be 2.25 feet. The carport was designed to be visually appealing and open on all but one side. So it's open. It's only blocked on the southern side, which is again Limestone County house, and all the other sides are open. So we believe it doesn't restrict much light, and does not restrict much airflow. We additionally had the carport built, reinforced essentially, to 140 mile per hour winds. So that would categorize as a F2 tornado of wind strength that it would technically resist. Unfortunately, tornadoes are acts of God, and you can't really wholly plan for that. We believe that we took every measure to design the carport that is aesthetically pleasing and is not a detrimental impact on the neighboring properties, and we mitigated for safety. Moving on to the shed. The shed, as I said, measures 12 by 16 feet. That was purchased after we applied for the initial permit and after the driveway and the carport was built. in applying for the, variance, Callie Zimmerman told us that we needed to add that to the total area being requested. Apparently that's in the ordinance, and I told her that we did not believe, well, according to the ordinance, anything under 200 square feet did not require a permit, and that is why it wasn't on any permit request. We didn't know it was required to be, you know, to alert the, building department that it was there. Well, we purchased it and we plan to install it. So, moving on to cover the hardship of the size, I believe, of the property, or the limitation of the 25%. Our home was a home, is a home of a row of 12 houses that was built in the early 2000s, two of which now are, that are only in the city now, that have annexed into the city. The remaining 10 are still limestone county homes. Those homes obviously are not restricted by the zoning ordinance of the city of Madison. We, however, are, and we feel that that places a hardship on us because those neighbors can pretty much build whatever they want, and we are limited by the zoning ordinance. Granted, we know we made errors, and we would have loved to have initially applied for the permit with the correct information. So we're asking for a variance to allow for the exceedance of the floor area of the dwelling requirement and reducing the side yard setback. We truly apologize to the building department and to the board for all our ignorance and lack of information about our part. This is the first time we've ever applied for a permit. We've only ever bought a house and never really added anything to it. And I think that's it. I'd like to add that my wife and I both work, not that it matters, but it matters to me. We both work in support of the DOD. We work hard for our belongings and our accomplishments. And I want to be able to protect my investments and my belongings and our vehicles by having the shed and the carport. That's all I have.
Okay, well, my first thing, I want to just go so that you understand our position to the information that's contained in the staff report in section D, with saying that the applicant was advised prior to initial permit approval of the size of the structure that could be permitted based on the size of the existing dwelling, and specifically advised that a 35 by 32 structure would not be allowed because it did not meet zoning ordinance requirements. The location being 4 feet from the side property line was approved in error. However, the accessory structure was constructed at 2.25 feet from the side property line. The subject property does not have any easements along the side property line in question. The circumstances in motivating the variance request do not constitute an unnecessary hardship. And even with that paragraph, the staff even said that with the error, they would consider the 4 feet. Somewhere here, they would agree to the 4 feet, but not what you're requesting. Oh yes, this is a staff recommendation. They would not be opposed to reducing the side yard setback to 4 feet to be consistent with the initial approval that they gave. I just want you to bear in mind that we've got to consider the information that you were given to in a timely manner. And I don't have any specific questions, but I need to see if my board members have questions.
I'm going to be honest, I got lost in the middle of it, but from what I understand, you ordered a 30 by 20.
No, we actually ordered a 35 by.
So we ordered the carport itself 35 by 20 with a lean-to that was 35 by 12.
So, okay, that you ordered those separately, so you ordered.
No, it was all ordered.
It came together, but they are listed out in the ordering process as two separate structures.
Yeah.
I think that was also part of where our confusion came in, was the term lean-to. We searched through the ordinances, we didn't see it, we didn't understand, I guess, initially that that was part of the structure, which is why when they advised us that it was too large, we thought that, it was because of the lean-to, being in the initial permit request, and that it shouldn't have been in the request, even though it was actually part of the building, because we didn't understand, I guess, that the lean-to was actually part of the square footage of that structure.
Okay, the applicant submitted the aforementioned plan for a 30 by 20. So that's what you submitted a permit.
Right, we made
for.
a mistake.
So you had already ordered the building, is that?
We
Yes.
had, because we initially had thought, we were living in Limestone County, we looked at their ordinance instead of Madison City, so we made a mistake.
Because I'm busy, and yes, you're, just for everybody concerned, my house is on Benore Trail, which is just off of Hardeman when you turn in on third house on the left. And you're on Hardeman Road. So yes, I stand in my backyard and I look at the building. I was out of town at the time that you constructed it. When I came back, it was there. So I'm trying to get the sequence in order because, and then you say, when you bought the house, when did you buy that house?
In July, early July.
Of 2023.
This year, yes, sorry, 2023.
I'm a real estate broker. So I know that you had to be aware that you were buying in the city of Madison.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay, so I don't think I had malicious intent, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, I hope whoever was representing you told you were buying in the city of
Yes.
Madison. Yes, you're Limestone County.
Mhm.
Madison City, we annexed that in 2009, I think.
She said that they inadvertently read the wrong one. But the other part, she's saying those additional 12
Right.
feet, they didn't realize, that wasn't included in the measurements that they had.
Okay, so the staff recommendation, and this is just me trying to figure out how to fix this, is that if the lean-to portion was removed, how'd you word that, Johnny?
I believe what it says is that if we remove the lean-to, the carport and the shed still exceed the 25% of the limit of the dwelling. So it actually said to remove the dwelling, I'd rather remove the lean-to and the shed. That's what the recommendation says, if I remember correctly.
Removes the lean-to portion of the carport that was not included in the approved building permit and reduce the size of the
Right.
accessory structure on the property to meet the 25% proportionality requirement. Staff is not, okay. However, staff is not opposed to reducing the side yard setback to 4 feet. What would they need, what will have to be done from a construction standpoint to get them in that 4 foot? The entire structure? Or the lean-to? Or the accessory building?
No, the RV carport is the side that's
In the setback.
in the setback. We would also have to redo the concrete pad because it's specifically built to hold a 20,000-pound vehicle and the footing for the RV carport.
You're talking about the entire structure?
Well, the entire structure, or at least that side of it, I don't know when, you know, they were going, the whole thing, have, this side goes in 2 feet, this side would have to go over 2 feet too. I don't know if there's enough room there to move that side over and still have room to get in or not.
And then, of course, like I said, the septic tank issue, by moving the pad over any further to the north, or even closer, you know, all over to the west, as you look at the drawing, it's a hardship that's on that part. That, I don't know, definitely we're not gonna dig up the septic.
The hardship, but you haven't done what you did and want.
Oh, yes.
It's not, you haven't proven that to be a hardship.
It was a unfortunate, like my kid said, unfortunate series of events, like the TV show.
Well, do I have any other
Is there,
comments before I do these letters?
yeah, the houses behind you, do they have an HOA?
They do.
And what is their setback?
Not sure.
Do we know
Their yards are much smaller than ours.
It's a different. Okay, we had, any other comments?
I do. There was a case, number VAR 2022-2010, where 2022-010, where a side yard setback was reduced from 20 feet to 1 feet. That addresses that particular concern.
Do you have the location for that one?
I didn't write it down. I just wrote the case
Well, we
number.
can look it up, but 22010. Okay.
And then in relation to the 25% rule, there's a case number VAR 2021-004, which was asking for a 49%, but I guess later it was found that it was only 37% due to uninhabitable space, excuse me. So I did have a question about that, because the carport is not closed, and it only has a partial, or one wall on the side. It's not heated, it's not cooled, it's open on all the other sides, and no electricity, and it's just to house vehicles. And I'm having confusion understanding how it's considered a building if it's just, you know, a roof, essentially, and support.
It's a structure.
Right, it's a structure, but
the roof makes it a structure.
right, but it's not a building. I understand that it says there's a accessory use, but it also, for example, accessory use per the ordinance refers to, as an example, a swimming pool. Swimming pool has no walls, but is considered accessory use. Additionally, the accessory building definition in the ordinance, it gives you examples of a private garage and a storage shed. The storage shed clearly is an accessory building, as a parking garage is as well, but a parking garage is entirely closed, has a roof, has walls on all four, and it has a door.
Okay, we do have 2 correspondences in response to this case. First one, board members, we would be there in person if we hadn't already booked a trip for our kids' fall break. We live in an HOA community where guidelines and rules must be followed to keep our properties maintained and to have a nice neighborhood to live in. We accepted these terms and conditions upon the purchase of our home 6 years ago. However, the adjacent property is not in our HOA. Our backyard shares a property line with the people who live behind us. They have built such a massive structure, and it is so close to feel like it's in our backyard. It is built approximately 5 inches from my fence line and very tall. It also sits on top of the hill from our house, which makes it seem even taller. We feel our property value is going to decline due to this unsightly view. We have lost sleep, have stressed over what to do, taken pictures, gotten an estimate for privacy trees, looked into moving, talked to neighbors, spent hours calling, emailing, and talking to whomever we can get in touch with to not allow this structure to stay. It is in such close proximity to our property line as well as so tall and large. We are extremely upset our backyard oasis is now gone, and we spend a lot of time in our back patio. It is our understanding the structure built was not the plan submitted and approved. As we understand it, there is a percentage of the house square footage in which a structure can be built. I urge you to deny the variance request and follow the guidelines the city has in place. The structure is not in compliance with the guidelines, which are designed to protect people like us and our situation. We have been wanting to build an indoor pool for years and finally feel like we are in a place to do so. We just don't know if we can justify the cost of a pool with the current unpleasant view in our backyard. If you would walk into our backyard in person, and we highly encourage and welcome you to do so, we know you would feel the same as us. It is wrong to allow a structure to stand which is not in compliance of the current city guidelines and to punish HOA neighbors, diminishing our property value for their inconvenience. We own an RV as well. We rent and park it in a storage facility. This massive structure is such an eyesore and unpleasant to look at. Ask yourself, if you lived in an HOA in the city, would you want to look at this every day? Thank you for your time and consideration. That's Chris and Shelley Chapman.
All right.
May I address the first letter before you go on to the second one?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the peak of the carport is 17.9 feet, not even 20 feet. The city ordinance has a limit, I guess, of 35 feet, I believe. So we're well within that. Additionally, our backyard and that whole road is in a higher elevation that the properties in that HOA are, all bordering the houses along Hardeman Road. So they're already in a much lower ground than we are initially. The concrete actually had to go deep into our ground because it's, as I said, there's a slope and it's higher ground to make it level with the existing driveway. So I don't see how there is any way we could have changed that, the height of our building, because we have a motorhome that we want to keep on our property.
And it is actually 5 feet from
Right.
the back, their fence. I think the letter, when you read, said 5 inches, but it's actually,
Yeah, it's 5 feet, and the zoning ordinance, I believe, requires just a foot, is that correct?
Foot off of any,
Mhm.
your drainage easement and your,
The drainage easement, yeah, would be on there is a drainage easement, yes, it goes down. Not,
Oh, yes, yes.
not, yeah, not on yours, but it's in between the properties.
All right, we have one more. To whom it may concern, we are emailing you with our comments on this monstrous structure built in our neighbor's backyard. This is a huge eyesore, and it should be removed. Not only did the homeowner build it almost twice the size it was approved for after being told he could not build it to that larger size, but it is something that should not be built in a community with houses so close together. We see this industrial carport not only when in our beautiful backyard, but also from our kitchen island, our dining nook, and our family room. It is all we see. Our property values in the neighborhood are going to drop because no one will want to purchase a home with that basically sitting at the back door. Living in Tornado Alley, many of us believe that the structure would not stand up to the weather since it is not fully enclosed. It is open on all but one side, so wind can channel into it easily. This raises the risk of harming people and damage to homes around it. We would like you to put yourself in our shoes and think about what it would be like if you had to live behind it and feeling like it's right there at the door. This is all you see when you go into your backyard. Believe us, you wouldn't want it there. We would like to request the carport structure be removed and to not approve the variance. Thank you for hearing us out. Matt and Amanda Linford.
Okay, may I address that letter as well? So it sounds like frustrated homeowners in an HOA, as we clearly were and why we moved. somewhere else with a lot more land, and, what we thought was gonna have less restrictions because the HOAs are really restrictive, I believe especially in the state of Alabama. Secondly, the tornado, or rather the, carport was specifically, we spent extra money to have it built, reinforced to withstand 140-mile-per-hour winds, which I said is that categorizes as an F2 tornado. However, if a tornado were to go through that area, it doesn't matter what's standing in its way, and I'm sure you all understand that the tornado is going to do what it's going to do. As I said, it's an act of God. And finally, I find it troubling that both those letters mention specific details that I do not understand how they were able to find out that the permit that a permit was incorrect, or, with the errors that we made that I mentioned earlier. That I find troubling. That's why I asked the question earlier to Ms. Bushman about any biases, because I find it strange.
Let me make it really clear to you, no disrespect intended. I don't have a clue who these people are that wrote these letters, okay? Never talked to them. No one has ever called me, just so you know.
I appreciate
I think the people that are sitting in here,
thank you.
when you have your opportunity, but trust me, I wouldn't know them in a crowd of two, okay? So let's just be real clear about that.
That makes me feel better, because it's a concern, because they both mention some extreme details of the.
Well, we don't consider HOA requirements in our deliberations, so it has nothing to do with the decisions we'll make. It's just the requirement of the city ordinance that will.
The second letter, yeah.
But,
Okay, one other question. That second letter, where are they relative to your land? Are they to the side of you? Or are they behind you?
We believe those, I'm not sure of the address, but they're right behind us.
That's the first letter. The second letter, where are they? Do you know?
I think they're also their neighbors. I believe they're neighbors.
Behind and over to, this side.
Over to their left or to their right, I'm not sure.
They're not right next to you, that
No,
No.
a neighbor here,
is the one right next
Right
to
to
you.
us.
To that, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't have the addresses here.
All right, sir, did you, are we finished?
Did you have other comments?
Let's see, I think that's,
well, I think I have one more comment that I guess I'm wanting you to clear up, because you got approval for, for the 30, but yet
so,
you didn't follow the permit that you received.
right.
And I understand it was a mistake, and it was a mistake, but y'all mentioned you work for DOD, so I know details are extremely important with what you do, so that's what I'm struggling with. It has nothing to do with where I live, or who I know, or
I get it.
who I don't know.
You
follow the rules like we all have to, and if you don't know, you educate yourself on trying to figure it out.
Right, and like I said, we initially looked up at the Limestone County. We did not know of the requirement of the city. I assumed that the
But
city
you knew
followed.
you lived in the city of Madison based on the purchase of your house.
Yes, but we assumed that the city followed the county, permit. We did not know that the city had its own set of rules, and as you said, I guess it was created in 2009. We weren't aware that, I know that doesn't excuse it, but, we just have never had to deal with, anything requiring a permit before.
So you specifically, said about the error that you personally made, which addresses only one part of it. It doesn't address the change, with the permit giving you 30 feet, and you exceeded that as well.
Oh, which
Yeah,
one?
so the initial permit that
30 by
requested, you put
20, and
30.
you ended up
Right,
with
that's,
It was,
35 by 32.
yeah.
that's, as I said, that was an error on our part. It was, when, Callie Zimmerman emailed me, she said that we would not be approved for the 35 by, the actual carport size, 35 by 32, which is what we purchased. However, when we asked for the construction plan from the manufacturer, which the building department required, we didn't know, they sent us a generic, construction plan. When we submitted that, that's when the confusion started on our end, and I guess Ms. Callie Zimmerman was also confused. So that's when we thought, I guess we did not order the 35 by 32, and we ordered the 30 by 20, which is why we sent in the updated site plan with those specs. Again, we did not believe the lean-to was considered a building or a structure, and that is why we did not.
When you received those specifications, though, you noticed it. So, I mean, that was before the construction actually.
No. That was after the fact. No. I'm sorry. So, yes, it was already after the fact. This all started when the code enforcement officer appeared at our house and told us that we were too close to the setback, which the gentleman did not bring any measuring devices he just eyeballed it, and he told me that we were within a setback. I don't think he knew that it was even a 4-foot requirement. Clearly, it's not 5 feet, clearly it's not 15 feet, but he didn't measure, and he told us that that the lean-to was not part of the site plan, in which you need to call the building department, and that's how the variance came to be.
But the measurements that you had constructed when you received the specs for your order, I thought you said that's when you noticed the difference.
So I don't have it with us, but we referred to that, and it shows a 30 by 20 base price, and when we looked at that, we thought that was what we purchased. It doesn't list a 35 by 32, but if you go down, it itemizes several sections to comprise the full structure.
Okay, board members, any other questions? Okay, I think there's someone in the audience who came to speak to this case. If you will go to the mic and state your name, please.
My name's Dave Morris. I live 205 Brighton Parkway, which is almost directly behind the structure. And my neighbor on my right is the Chapmans. My neighbor on my left is the second letter. And I wanted to just talk real quickly about 3 basic things. One is the aesthetics. When you're talking about a 35 by what is actually a 42-foot wide structure, this is what it looks like from my back window. This is from my master bedroom window. And the challenge is that, as was said in the first letter from the Chapmans, we did not have any kind of problems. We didn't have, now I don't see a sunset, just those aesthetically are really a challenge. I don't have fences or gates on my fences, so you can see it from the street also. And it is monstrous. It is quite big. And I don't know where they get 15 feet tall from, but if you look at the roof of that to the ground is much more than 15 feet. Because how tall is a RV? He's got probably 10 feet above the RV as just open space. Secondarily, from a hazard standpoint, our wind comes from the west. My house is a eastern facing house, so my backyard faces the west. And anytime a wind comes, it blows heavily across those that space in between those 2 houses in particular. And I don't care how strong the structure is, the sheet metal and that kind of stuff can tear off and smash right into our houses. I went and I don't have a fence. My fence is his fence and my neighbor's fence and my other neighbor's fence, if that makes sense. They all face me. And I went and measured, and it's 2.6 feet from that back fence. And I know that I don't think that there is an ordinance about the rear facing. I think it's just the side facing, but to have this built with a 2.3 or whatever foot variance, this is about 2.3 feet. From me to you is about 15 feet. So that is quite a bit of distance different. So from the code standpoint and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but, 9/10 of the law is ignorance, it doesn't have anything to do with the law being the law. And not only did they start at about 6 o'clock in the morning, but they had it up in one day, and nobody said anything except for when we came out and saw this giant structure. So it is a very big issue, and I think that y'all can see that it definitely can be a hindrance to the pricing of our houses. And yes, we do live in an HOA, and it is a very strict HOA. And I have an easement at the top of my property. They literally had to put a ditch because we have water. And the third challenge that I have is him putting the cement there, all the water runs straight down into my backyard. We live at the top, or actually my neighbor to the south of me lives at the top of the hill, and all the water comes down and comes through my side yard and to my front yard to the drain. And now it's coming through from the back because that used to be grass to soak it up, and it's flying right off underneath that fence. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
May I address the gentleman's concern?
Let us hear everybody and then.
Okay.
Do we have anybody else who wants? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Bring it down a little. My name is Stephanie Woods, and yeah, I'm at 105 Benmore Trail.
Sorry, I said that, but I didn't recognize you.
Right. I'm actually wearing makeup. My yard is, let's see, Hardeman's here. I am the second house on the left on Benmore Trail. Absolutely.
On their lot right there.
Okay. This is me.
Okay.
So I am due south of this structure.
She lives right next door to me, as a matter of fact.
And the structure is enormous. It dominates the area. It is entirely outsized for what it is. We used to, we used to be able to see part of the sunset that way. We used to be able to see lots of trees. It used to be a very nice view. It's not anymore. I have the enclosed wall of this metal building, which looks, it does look very industrial. It just is. It's bright white metal building. And you can see that the way my house is laid out. You see that from my master bedroom. You see that from my living room, from my kitchen, from my rec room, and from another bedroom. All of that faces this view now. And this is what I'm looking at, is this enormous metal building. So, the zoning ordinances are here to protect safety and property values, and this is why I need you, right? Because it is obtrusive, this thing. And I am concerned for my safety because it is a metal building. I have the one enclosed space. It is open on all other areas, so the wind is going to come right in there and be funneled. So our winds, our storms usually come from the northwest, as this gentleman mentioned. I am due south. I'm very concerned about that. Only being up to and, being reinforced for an F2 is nothing. Where we live, we have F2s pretty often. So what we've done here is while a tornado is an act of God, this structure, which is going to easily become flying debris, is not. So I'm asking you, I'm very concerned about that thing coming our way because we do get tremendous winds coming kind of down that alley. I also work for the DOD, And so I also want to protect my property, and it wouldn't be nearly as much of a threat if this had been built to the requirements, but instead it was built far bigger. And like I said, there's a reason we have this. It's after the fact now, we're asking, we're saying it's a hardship. It's not, it can't be a good argument that it's a hardship now that it's built, right? Because then what would stop anyone? That could be an argument for anybody. Why would anybody come get something pre-approved if they could just build it and say, well, now it's a hardship to move it? So let's see, what else? Aging is a concern. I'm concerned about how this thing is going to age. We've all seen old metal buildings and how they look. I'm very concerned for my property value. This greatly affects it. It dominates our backyard. We have 1 yard between us, and it's just all you see. It's all I see all day long. So with that in mind, I'm asking that you please deny this request for a variance. Thank you.
Stephanie, for the record, like I said, I didn't recognize her, but we're both busy people, and I'm gone a lot, but
right.
We have never discussed this.
No, never, not once. No. No.
Okay.
Never.
And I think wasn't there just recent tornado or wind damage to your fence with the tree that went down, or was
yes,
that?
We've had, the wind is, I'm sorry, the wind is so strong coming from that area. We did just recently have some damage because of the fence there. It needed to be replaced. We've replaced it, but there again, if I'm very concerned about debris flying that way, and it is an enormous building, so please consider that.
The lady from the second letter, she lost a weeping willow just this last spring due to this.
Okay. Did you want to say something else? I didn't want to cut you off. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, and good evening. I received a letter from you guys.
Your name?
Oh, my name is Teresa Thomas. Now, spelling of my name is T-H-R-E-S-A. We received a letter, and my name on this was spelled wrong. But I understand a lot of people spell my name this way, but it's T-H-R-E-S-A. Okay. So thank you for the letter. So I'm here in response to the letter that you guys have sent. I am a next door neighbor. I'm rightly next door to them and to our neighbors. And I have no problem, none at all, with their structure that they have in their yard. I have none. I wrote quite a lot, but I want to start pretty much with the last thing I wrote that was kind of concerning as I was listening. How do they know all the facts about my neighbor's measurement as you were reading some letters? And I was like, how do they know? How do the people in those letters know the preciseness of the size? That was interesting to me. I just happened to write that down. Now, I want to share with you guys, my concern is not the structure, because the structure to me looks very nice. I say, this was disturbing to me, is when two ladies came over to my house, and they had brought us a letter, and it says, shout out to Brighton Park, help is needed. Now, I don't know their intent of the letter, but this is how the letter came to me. I seen this, for me, it was very concerning, because the question I have is why, for the good of our neighbors, or is this letter was meant for harassment? And for me, I felt sad.
I don't know what letter you're referring
I'm referring to this letter. And this wasn't a this was, two ladies came over to my house. I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna try to go fast.
I didn't get the.
And I want to be respectful, but now I caution you that we're just dealing with what's being requested.
Yeah, that's what I probably do not know how to, come up and stand and say directly what you want me to say. I just wrote these things down. And if it's not, you can, correct me as you go. But this is just what I'm saying. And, it was a shout out to Brighton Park, help is needed, is what it says on this. And that was very concerning to me, because the question was, to me, is this for the good or is it for harassment? And for me, I felt very sad after I was reading it. And it made me, it didn't have any positive, it was just like a negative statement. And okay, that's, your opinion. But are you trying to make me feel the way you feel about this? And that's the problem I have when, when letters are circulating about this, and we come in here for you guys to determine the aspect of this, and then the neighborhood is spreading this and wanting us to come with a negative viewpoint because that's how they feel. No, that saddens me, because I should be able to come and speak how I feel freely without having somebody else's viewpoint or telling me about something. Now, number one, it points out that this is humongous and humongous and an eyesore. Okay, it's large, but an eyesore, that's your viewpoint. That's not my viewpoint. I live right next to it. And when I see it as a pavilion that's housing a structure, and I've seen the neighbors as being good stewards to what is given to them in protecting the covering on it. I thought, that's really neat to have something to cover your possessions. And I've seen that as a good thing. And I look at it, and it's big, and it's white, and it looks real pretty. Now, I live right next door to it. And then, and I don't have a problem with that, because I've seen them as being good stewards and housing that vehicle that they have. I said, oh, that's really neat. And then I know they have concrete on it, and it's not in the sand. And I don't know, sinking sand portion. It's on a sturdy thing, and it looks like it's the structure is concealed to the concrete, so it wouldn't just easily fly off. It's not like in the sand or the dirt. It's in the concrete. It looks like a real structured thing. Now, and I agree with you when you saying with God and His force. Yes, God can have some real strong force, and our houses might not even be able to stand, let alone any structure. God has a powerful wind, and we know He can. He has a powerful wind. But when we do what we can to have something secure for safety, that's what we should be held responsible, making sure that it is as safe as it can be. And I was very disappointed to see this letter, because and maybe because I'm Afro-American, and I felt like it was saying, now this is my viewpoint. I'm not saying when the ladies pass this is not them. This is what I'm saying. This is how I felt about it, because I am an Afro-American lady. And I was reminded of how people would circulate stuff when people moved in the neighborhood because they were black. And they said, your housing value will go down. And then within this is saying it will be hurting everyone's property and resale of the values. That's the part that really threw me for a loop. Now, I'm saying me, not the ladies that passed out the papers. So I think we need to be really cautious as neighbors, that when we have a viewpoint, we come to the meetings like you having now, without circulating letters to the other neighbors to get them roused and stirred up in a negative way. And now again, I'm gonna say the two ladies came to our house personally and gave us this letter. And then I had told the ladies there that, because we had a conversation, and this was after they left, I read the letter, and I told them, I don't see that as anything negative. To me, it looks really nice. What I see as negative, because I live right next door to them, and then again, like they had mentioned how the houses below them go down. I said, the way that they built y'all roof, to me, that's an eyesore to me, because when I look, I can't see the mountains all like that. I see y'all roofs. So I told them I can relate and I can understand if you're saying something to you is an eyesore, because I see y'all houses as eyesore to me when I'm looking at that way, because usually they don't do roofs that way. So I was very, very disturbed by this, because, and again, it makes me think, you want to put somebody in your box. Can we look at stuff sometimes as what's positive about it? As, like point out, okay, some negatives, positive. Why? Is it because you just don't like it? Or is it facts that need to be really addressed? And then if it is facts that need to be addressed, is it any kind of way that we can see the resolve or the solution that it can be for the betterment? So I wanted to thank you again for this. I have no problem with their structure, and I don't see it as a negative, but I understand the view, and I don't know what view they're referring that they're not seeing now, because the mountains and stuff is behind their house, and maybe, I just don't understand. But they do, you can see the carport, and it is a very neat, well-tidy carport, and I see it as them being good stewards with managing what they have to keep it look good and weatherproof as much as possible.
Man, we read, just a minute.
Yeah, would you mind if I showed this to them?
Yeah, I think that's our house.
Yeah, that's
our house right there.
Mm-hmm. Ma'am, thank you so much for your comments, but that's why we distribute the announcements on our cases, so that neighbors will know about it and they can respond. But there, some things we don't have any control over.
No, I wasn't referring to your letter.
I know which one you're referring to, but I'm saying that's why we send our correspondence.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on so we can finish this up.
I have to address these concerns because I think it's important. The roof of the carport is 17.9 feet. We forgot to bring the drawings and specs from it, but the roof on our house and our neighbors' houses are actually almost 35 feet. It's much taller. So as our neighbor Teresa said, their view isn't changing much already anyway. They were already looking from downhill, looking uphill at our properties and maybe a little bit of the tree line. But I want to make sure that I understood you correct earlier, where you said that the HOA requirements or issues does not affect the decision here. Okay.
That has
Have no
nothing to
social-
do with us.
Nothing at all.
Our lot is very unique and peculiar as it is zoned agricultural. It's not zoned R whatever, I don't even know what it is. Our neighbor is Limestone County, as I mentioned earlier. We're in between several homes that are Limestone County. And we believe that it's a restriction by not allowing us to build what we'd like to build, as the neighbors we have can clearly do that.
And our decisions and our requirements must be based on what's stated in the
Yes.
ordinance, and that's what we are looking at.
I understand. So our lot does not even meet the agricultural requirements. It's not 3 acres. We don't have city sewer. There's a lot of things that we don't get from the city that we pay for. And I guess what I'm trying to say is all we wanted to build was a nice structure. It has gables, it has a whole bunch of decorative portions around it to make it look like a nice building. It's not ugly, in my opinion. It is 5 feet, and the code enforcement is welcome to come out and measure and to reference the height and the width and the length and the distance from the fence to confirm it. It is what we said when we double measured what it is. It's 5 feet from the setback in the rear and 2 1/4 from our neighbor Teresa. It is 17.9 feet tall. It is open on 3 sides. We did make errors in the initial permit, but we are trying to correct them with the variance and are asking to be able to keep the structure and the shed to protect our personal belongings. As the other lady said, that she does work for the DOD. My wife and I also work for the DOD. I also served in the military, combat veteran, disabled veteran, and I shed blood, sweat, and tears for this country, protecting God and country, and I certainly would expect the board to be able to allow me to protect my belongings on my property, which again is a unique property because it's in agricultural amongst other Limestone County neighbors and the HOA where it's zoned R something. I'm not sure what their restrictions are. But do you have anything else?
No, we were gonna have to, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, but.
I don't think the height has anything to do with what the height, so let's be clear, our decision is made on the city zoning ordinance, what is required. Every homeowner has to fall into requirements. That's what the variance, that's what this process is for. We are not controlled. The HOA of any neighborhood in the city has no influence on our decisions in any way. Okay, just so y'all are clear about that. Obviously, that somebody said that came from the HOA of Brighton Park, and I am a member of HOA Brighton Park. I did not get that letter. I've never been to a meeting. I don't even know who the board is, but that has no influence over us whatsoever.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but
we've considered the communication, that's all we're gonna do with that. I want to be certain about this now, because I've got so many numbers, now I'm confused. But you
Well, you
said
can
that
relate to how we
the
made the
final
numbers.
size, what you have constructed is 35 feet by 32.
35 by 32, that's correct.
That's correct. Okay, all right, thank you. Then back to what was approved in the permit, it was 30 by 20?
Is that right, Tony?
The permit was approved for 30 by 20? Is that correct?
It says, when the permit was issued, staff approved the location of the accessory structure on the plat below at 4 feet from the side property line. However, the required setback is 15 feet. Subsequently, the applicant, 2.25 feet is how they got down to. The plot below was submitted in response to the notice and shows the structure 30 by 30 in size.
Okay, John, if we go to page 2 of the report, it says the plot plan that's on the right is what the building permit was related to, right? 30 by 30? See, that's what I'm confused with. It says 30 by 30. But the permit itself was approved for 30 by 20.
Yes, the plot plan shows below on the left was submitted and applied for a variance. The applicant was issued a building permit on July the 27th,
30 by 20.
2023 for a 30 by 20 accessory structure. That was the carport. So we're clear, y'all approved this structure, but you only approved it to be built for a 30 by 20.
Correct.
Is that right?
The original permit that was submitted had a 30 by 20 building.
Okay, and you obviously, because we didn't have anything to do with it, the materials and whatever, you approved this building permit for a 30 by 20.
And you approved it for 4 feet, not 2.25.
But they're willing to acquiesce, and let's say 4 feet, we could approve the 4 feet. They would accept that error.
Okay.
But that doesn't do anything else to the rest of it. And it's a bit complicated, and I guess the question is, with the questions that are before us, we don't have a recommendation that will allow them to come within the ordinance. And we allowed for the setback, yeah, but that does nothing for the proportionality.
Correct. Proportionality has to meet 25%.
So I do have something, I remember I had a note about the proportionality in the zoning ordinance, let's see. 5-2-1 is exceptions. It says admin approval of no more than 50% gross floor area is allowed. So the way that reads to me is that it can be approved up to 50% of the gross floor area, unless I'm mistaken in what I wrote down. It's an admin approval. Article 5, Section 5-2-1, B.
With me.
I didn't bring it.
I don't have it.
They have it.
Because we'd like for neighbors to be happy, and, but sometimes when there are things that we can't do it.
That's commercial site plan.
So there's no distinction, because I thought that's where
That's in the zoning where it says B1, B2, B3, M1, M2, M3, R1, R2, R3A. Okay, so that doesn't apply to this.
Okay. So from 25, they want 40, they would have to have 47. Okay. I just have to have some help, because I can see what we want to do about the easement, side yard, back setback. I can see that, but I don't know how we could get from 25% to 47. Well, from 47 down to 25, I said it just opposite. I just don't know, because this is the first time, and I've been here a long time, that we have been so far out, there wasn't something we could adjust to happen. I think only one time in 20 years, and I remember where it was. I can't remember what the building was, but they had something out front, and it actually had to be torn off. It had to be removed.
So the only way for us to, I don't think the easement is much of a problem. The only way to correct that, we would have to take down the structure and break up the concrete and move the pad over. There's no getting around that.
I don't think you'd have to break up the concrete, you would just extend the concrete.
No, you would have to because of the foundation, the footing that the building requires, the structure requires, according to the zoning ordinance, it would have to be redone. What I'm trying to get at with the proportionality portion, the board has clearly approved many times, I didn't write them all down, well over the 25%. As I mentioned, the VAR 2021-004 approved a 37%, and that may be the highest that I saw. So clearly the board does have the power to approve of it. I didn't get an aerial shot today, but a lot is...
It may not have been residential, and
It actually, that one was, I gave you the case number, I mean...
We don't have that in front of us.
I understand, but it was a residential, lot.
Clarify one thing, was the permit issued before any construction started, or was it after the code enforcement officer went by? Say that again now. So the code enforcement officer was first, and then he came to y'all.
For the variance.
Or for the permit.
No, the permit was filed, weeks, several weeks. I think it was over a month. The permit was, requested first. The building was, the concrete was poured, the building was erected. The second day, while they were still under construction, it was not completed, the code enforcement officer appeared. That was the order.
I'm still confused too.
I bought the house in July, and the permit was issued on the 27th of July.
Yes.
So when did you buy the house? Just curious. Was it the 1st of July? July 7th? Okay.
But you had ordered the building, it was delivered?
No.
So there was no building there when you went and applied. Whoever built this, put this building up, said, we can't put this up because we have to have a building permit first.
Correct, from the city. They would not.
From the city.
They thought it was Limestone County, which it wasn't. They referred us to the city, and the city asked us for the required information, which we provided.
Can you confirm this? Oh, that's what I...
Based on the staff report, there was a permit issue on the 27th.
Correct.
And then code enforcement issued a notice of violation on August 24th after they went out and inspected.
Okay. So they had a permit that y'all approved, and y'all gave them a building permit for this... For the 30 by 20. And then the code enforcement went out to inspect it after they usually do in 30 days, right?
We also found that.
I know enough about construction to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Just hold on a minute. And when he went out, then he realized at that time that the building exceeded the permit. Is that, am I following? Huh?
Correct.
It did not match, okay. What we know at the end of the night, somebody's gonna be mad. So you had a permit, and you knew what your permit was for, and so did your contractor, because he had to get the building permit.
No, we
Hold on.
filed for the permit.
Y'all issued the building permit to, pronounce your last name correctly.
Ortiz.
Ortiz, I thought so. So y'all issued a building permit to Mr. Ortiz, and he knew that he had permission to build a 30 by 20. And you had to share that building permit with your contractor.
What?
To show him that he had permission.
Oh, yeah, that, correct.
But he knew that he was gonna put up a bigger building than what was approved, because these contractors that put these buildings up know better. Okay, they know better. Like Betty said, I was chairing this committee for a few years. She was my co-chair. I moved away. She took over. She's been chairing this board ever since.
We contacted after the sole will discover,
So,
contact the
I ain't
manufacturer.
trying to, because there's been so many dates and so many numbers. But what I know, and somebody correct me if I am wrong, is that a permit was issued to Mr. Ortiz in July 27th for a 30 by 20 building. Because he was gonna order this thing, and he already had somebody to put it up, and they said, no, you gotta go get a building permit, and he went and got the permit. Then he comes back and he shares it with his contractor. So now there's two of you that are supposed to be paying attention to what's going on to your property, knowing that this structure was gonna be built bigger than what you were approved for. I mean, everybody can read numbers. Everybody,
Correct.
if we don't read numbers, we can read stop signs, we can read speed
And it
limit signs.
also says that you inquired about a larger assessment.
Exactly.
And they advised you that it would not.
And here is the copy of the permit that you applied for.
Right.
So I just want to, but like I said, because I know somebody's gonna be mad at the end of the day. But when you're talking about the errors that took place and the HOA and being mad at everybody and nobody's talking about the.
We're not mad with anybody.
Nobody cares. All it is. HOA had nothing to do with this. I don't know who came to your house, have no idea. Listen, she's been my neighbor. I think you were my neighbor in that corner way. You've lived at your house longer than I've lived at mine. Y'all moved in after I did, and we waved. I think a couple of times you and I yelled across the fence at each other, and that's about it. So when I try to put all this drama of what this is about grown adults knowing they had a permit for a certain size building and shared it with a licensed building contractor that is licensed within the city of Madison. And clearly, this was not his first rodeo. He's built buildings before, or he's constructed, or put carports up before. And you had all this communication with all these people because you'd only lived in your house 20 days, from what we know. Bought it July the 7th, applied for it on the permit. So, all this era, I'm not sure that I fall for that, I'll be honest with you, because there's a lot of ways that this could have been caught. And you knew you lived in the city of Madison. So now that we got all that straightened out, I don't know how to fix it. So I've read and reread, and I looked at what you said, and
Well, I thought that was the point of the variance, is to try to correct.
say no.
Well, that was the point I thought of the variance, to be able to correct and get an approval for what we have now.
But you inquired while you were there, can I build a bigger building? And they said no. 12 feet. And they said no.
I don't remember asking them if I can build a bigger building.
I mean, listen, the city of Madison's been around for a long time. Was voted one of the best places to live in the United States. You know why? Because these people in that department right there. Because they protect the homeowners.
Well, I'm not questioning.
But we ask people to do it. This board will go above and beyond if it makes sense. But to educated people that's asking questions and got the answers, got a permit, and just decided to ignore the numbers on it is a whole different thing, I think.
Well, clearly the planning department also makes errors. It's clearly in the report, it calls out a 30 by 33, which is incorrect, and it erroneously approved us for a 4-foot setback versus the 15-foot setback, which they would have not approved the permit.
Where was an error in the 4-foot setback?
Yes, in the staff report, it clearly states that they made an error. They approved it erroneously.
You approved it for a 4-foot, but you.
No.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay, so we're gonna leave that 4 foot, right?
I mean, he recommended that we do that, but what good will it do? But,
It's not our problem.
and I don't know whether I can do this either, to keep them from having to pay all of the fees again. Is it possible that we could table this and let them look at the possibility of whatever's gonna be required in the movement to get one thing, and what could be done in regard to the sizing. I think you said you might be able to move something. I don't know whether that's in the structure, I'm not sure.
The shed is the only thing that can be moved because it's not,
The carport, the big structure,
the RV carport is,
they would have to take it down.
you would have to take it down. And
Because that portion is still outside of the proportionality.
our motorhome is 34 feet, so I remember
That we
not.
approved 30 by 20, that we gave them a building permit for, that y'all gave them the permit for, what would the percentage been at that time? Mm-hmm. 715. Correct.
Inside the what? What proportion was that?
That's 25%.
Which is within ordinance.
Correct. That is in line with the ordinance.
And that's what you gave them the building permit for. But then when they went to the larger building, that's
They were
where,
actually less than the 715.
okay,
30 by 20, which is.
right, right.
Not including the shed, which the shed would still,
But then when they went to the 35 by 32,
Yeah.
then that's where it got out of whack. Which is back to, y'all knew y'all were putting in a bigger building than you had
Make sure
approval
I am
for.
correct, because we're getting ready to vote. If, by chance, they are not granted the request that they are presenting tonight, what's next? See, I'm never.
that's what I was gonna ask.
I'm just interested.
So there's a permit that has been issued,
Mm-hmm.
but the permit has to match what was issued for, or else it fails.
Right.
So the inspection would fail. And we get a new permit and unpermitted construction. There's a code enforcement violation.
Okay, I understand that. So tonight, if we do not approve, these variances, we don't have to stipulate what the result
No,
has to be. We
that's
just
not,
have
that's
to do it.
no.
Okay, that's all I want to be sure. Okay.
And just so, everybody else knows that when the city issued this 30 by 20 permit, they were basically approving the height of it. You had that information.
Correct.
I'm assuming you did. I wasn't here. I was in New York City with my granddaughter. Y'all, I didn't even know that thing existed till I come home. And there was a flight building.
So what is there,
I was gonna say, so the height is not an issue, whether it's ugly or whether it's pretty, clearly is not an issue to us as a board, because they were given a permit to build a 30 by 20.
understand. So if we took
They knew
down,
what it was gonna look like when they gave them the permit. Now, y'all didn't call us, you didn't ask us, you didn't care what we thought, because as long as, y'all wouldn't be sitting here and talking to us, you'd have followed what you got permission for.
Okay.
if we took down the lean-to, what would that,
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
okay.
So if they take down the lean-to, does that give us clear, if we make a move on the variance to remove the lean-to on the carport,
Yes, that would make it 700 feet.
okay, then they don't even need us. Well, we just make the variance contingent upon them removing the lean-to part.
They would still need the variance for the side yard setback, 2.25.
Yes.
Because, yeah, but y'all kind of messed that up with the 15
But
to
we
4
agreed
feet,
that
right?
we would give it to them for 4. I mean, we will agree to give it to them for 4. So what now?
If we deny the first one at 2.25, then it goes back to 4, correct?
Correct, that was what was approved. Then it would have to go to compliance. Taking off only some of that problem.
About the setback as well?
Taking the lean-to off, so the first part of the, I'm tired. The the first part of somebody give me your second sheet, I just, no.
If the carport is removed, and he said they would.
That will put them in compliance with the first part of the motion.
Give a that first variance, we would not have to do that, correct?
We would, but the lean-to would do away with that 47%. It put them in compliance.
As long as they're under 715 square foot, that's the 25%, that's the only number we're looking. And that includes the shed though as well, right? Now that we know about it. It wasn't on the original permit. So that would be 792. Right. Which would be above the limit. Right.
Okay, well, once again, that first variance would not be needed if they do that. And we can't tell them to remove it well, we wouldn't be given a variance, so we want to. To do that, so it would no longer be our concern. Is that what you're saying to me? Okay.
But the building permit, if you do choose to do that, the building permit has to be revised to match what's actually on there.
That's somebody else's problem. Okay, but then for the second one, we need to make a motion that we will be changing the side yard setback to 4 feet.
Well,
we still got to do that, right?
Yes.
So is it 4 feet or 2.25 feet?
4, because that's what they approved.
Right, that's why I referenced the case, the 2022-01, where the side yard setback was reduced from 20 feet to 1 foot.
Blessings. Sorry, sir.
That's why I referenced the VAR 2022-010, where.
Oh, but that's okay. I don't, you know, I may have been there that night. This is me. I still stand behind what I did that night.
Oh, no, I'm just highlighting to the board that you have approved setbacks much lower than 2 1/4 foot.
But every situation is different, and
I understand.
And as you just pointed that out, when people say, well, how did they know about their property? How did they know about that size? Y'all do know this is public information, right?
Right, and
that's how you knew that.
Yeah, that's how we
right?
discovered
that's
all of
how
this.
you knew that.
Right.
So when you want to know how they know about these numbers, it's public information. Oh, Austin Furniture, that was the one in 2022. And it was on Madison Boulevard.
Okay, we're going to move on. What we're going to do is, I get 2 motions here. The first one we're dealing with is the yard setback from 15, no, that's not the one.
But we have to approve it, right? So
we're going to take the first one, but we are going to, well, we've done that before, where we've approved it to 4. We're doing a different number of feet. We've done that before.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, that's the one we're going to do first.
So we can do it to 4 feet or 2.25 feet?
4.
So they have 2.25 feet in their plans. So we just invalidated that if we say only 4, correct?
Well, they had already approved them for 4.
It's 4, but.
The permit approved them for 4.
14 feet to 1 to no feet. I mean, you have that range in there.
Right, and being that neighbor.
Recommendation is 4, because that's what the permit was. But you want to make it 15 feet, or just say we deny it, just 15 feet, or if you want to make it 10, or if you want to make it 5 or 4 or whatever.
But if the building is sitting at 2.25, where's the building sitting in? The 4 feet or 2.25?
2.25, not 4.
Well, that's not going to help them.
Where you think, it's where you think, variance, if you decide to grant a variance. If you decide not to grant it, then it's got to be 15 feet. If you decide to grant it, it would be the range in there that you think is correct.
So it's sitting at 2.25 feet. Has nothing to do with the height, has nothing to do with if it's ugly or not, has nothing to do with the color on it, because it already gave them a permit to build it.
So you gave them a permit agreement for 4 feet. The agreement was for 4 feet.
That was a permit. But what he's saying is they want a variance, so if we wanted to give them the 2.25, we could.
Yeah.
Just remember that that property to the south of Teresa's, and they are Limestone County, they have no easements, and they have, no setbacks.
We got all that, but that, yeah, that's,
And
has nothing to do with the law.
This is the side yard. Okay, side yard, okay. I will entertain a motion.
Who wants to take that one?
Oh, God, let I make, because somebody's gonna be mad at me anyway. Okay, Madam Chairman.
Entertain a motion for
Okay.
approval, in that number to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 2.25 feet.
Madam
That's what
Chairman,
we're voting on.
case
Okay.
variance 2023-010. 29958 Hardeman Road, Harold Ortiz is requesting a variance, and I make a motion to approve the variance to section 4-11-3.2 to reduce the side yard setback from 15 feet to 2.25 feet.
Your second.
Second.
In case number variance 2023-010, 29958 Hardeman Road, we are,
Motion to approve.
we are approving is the word I'm looking for. I request a variance, section 4-11-3.2 to resolve the side yard setback from 15 feet to 2.25 feet.
Still advertising on this station.
Roll call.
Mrs. Fletcher.
And this is the first one on there now.
First one on.
Aye.
Ms. Florentine.
Aye.
Mrs. Bushman.
Aye.
Mr. Harper.
Aye.
Okay. The first variance is approved. All right? And you can coordinate with the staff to get your paperwork done. All right, now, the second one. The variance to section 5-9D to increase the proportionality of an accessory structure to the primary dwelling from 25 feet to 47 feet. Motion?
And just as a point of correction, you meant 25%.
25, what did I say? 25%, I'm sorry, thank you. Yes, 25%.
And this is where we can add the condition to remove the lean-to?
You either approve in 47 feet or you deny 47%.
Uh-huh.
Deny 47%, if you deny it, then they would have to comply.
That's right, because we're not dealing with that.
Yeah,
Not,
it's
if we don't approve this, then if they agree to it, that'll be between you and what department, not us.
If you approve it, it's approved 47%.
I said,
Then they could take the lead-to off and have the 700% be compliant.
but we don't have to set those conditions.
No, we just gotta approve or deny.
We're just doing yes or no. Because we have set the caveats before and changed some things.
And if we deny it, they can take the lean-to off and fix it.
Well, we don't even gonna talk about that.
Well, that's gonna be their problem. They
Okay.
can figure it out.
All right, the motion, please.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I will add, to the case number variance 2023-010, 29958 Hardeman Road, to approve the variance requested by Harold Ortiz to section 5-9D to increase the proportionality of the accessory structure to the primary dwelling from 25% to 47%. These requests are in accordance with section 10-5 of the City of Madison zoning ordinance.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded in case number variance 2023-010, 29958 Hardeman Road, that we approved a variance to section 5-9D to increase the proportionality of an accessory structure to the primary dwelling from 25% to 47%. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fletcher.
Nay.
Ms. Florentine.
Nay.
Mrs. Bushman.
Nay.
Mr. Harper.
Nay.
Second part denied, but you can work with the city and do
Okay.
what you can do.
Thank you for the time.
It's doable.
And thank everybody for your patience, but we still have one more case. All right, case number SE 2023-003, 130 Westchester Road. It's requesting a special exception to operate an auto body repair and paint shop in the M1 district as authorized in section 492 of the zoning ordinance. I got to get my paper. Please state your name, and thank you for your patience.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. I'm Gus Wilson, representing the developer. To give you a brief introduction into who we are a national developer specializing in national brand tenants in the restaurant, retail, automotive, and medical sectors. We focus on aligning with high-quality tenants like Panera Bread, Aldi, Caliber Collision, Chipotle, Sleep Number, just to name a few. But with that being said, we are hoping to bring a Caliber Collision to the Madison community. When describing Caliber, I like to start with what they're not. They are not a pull-apart junkyard with wrecked cars. They are not a tire shop with open doors and loud air guns. They're not an oil change facility with an abundance of hazardous chemicals being pumped into and out of vehicles. Caliber is a high-quality collision repair shop with over 1,300 stores across the United States, and they primarily handle insurance-paid automobile repairs. They will address things ranging from a check engine light to a chipped windshield or damages caused by a minor fender bender. Because of their size, so they're in 27, although I believe it's up to 28 or 29 states, and that's across 1,300 locations. They are scrutinized by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, far more than others, and therefore they're at the top of their game when it comes to environmental compliance. So much so that they even hire a third party to come and inspect their stores to make sure that they are environmentally compliant. All work takes place indoors in a fully conditioned shop space. They do not store any totaled vehicles at all. Once a vehicle is deemed totaled, it is on a truck and sent away immediately. And because of their pay structure, they work quickly. The average time per vehicle on the lot is between 5 to 10 days. That includes visual inspection, the diagnosis, part procurement, and the repair, and 5 to 10 days is their goal. They're typically open only Monday through Friday, so they're not open on the weekends, and their hours range from about 8:30 to 5:30 p.m., give or take 30 minutes, just depending on the location. They're a clean, well-run operator that takes pride in its place in the community. And just so you know, we place Calibers in various locations across the United States, some in power centers next to Dick's Sporting Goods, Lowe's, and others in more residential areas, backed right up into residential properties. The point I'm trying to make is Caliber is a really good neighbor, and they're open with similar office hours as a typical office setting. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have, and we respectfully ask for your vote of approval.
Any questions from anybody?
Be the only one on that. I don't have things to say.
Do we have any, I forgot to say that to the, but anyway, we had so many for us, I forgot to say that at the end of it. Do we have any emails or phone calls or anything about this one?
Only Mr.
Do we have someone else in the audience who wants to speak to this?
Yeah, and I didn't come here to complain or anything like that, so, I just had a couple of questions. We own the office building right next door to it, and, actually the trucking company that's there 26 years ago, they split their property in half, and we bought 2 of their 4 acres, and we've been right next door to that place the whole time, so, but we have spent a lot of money on it, and we are worried about property values and that kind of thing, and so, and I'm not sure about, like I said, I'm not here to necessarily to say we wouldn't want it there. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions about it. And some of these may not even be required of them. Like, for example, it's a pretty nice neighborhood, and it has been. It's not exactly what I had in mind when I moved into this particular neighborhood. It's ended up being a lot of mini storages and different kind of bus shops and things for the county, but all of it's been very nicely built, but the reason I'm really here is that we've run into some things that have happened, and they sort of slipped through the system, and, and I've never been one to make a fuss about anything. I believe people, you buy something and to a certain point, it's yours, you know, and so, but we've had problems with noise. We've got a huge mini storage across the road from us. It's not a mini storage, it's a storage facility, high bay storage, and this has nothing to do with these folks necessarily, but they're operating businesses out of these mini storages, and so we have automotive repair shops operating in a mini storage across the road from us, and I don't know if it's a repair shop or a detailing shop or what, but what we end up with, and there's companies operating, and they're coming and going, and we end up with, some of them didn't have enough parking. I think maybe they've got that resolved. But we end up with noise. We end up with people working on cars out in the parking lot, so across the street from us already. And we got rap music going out there, you know, that I can hear inside the building, inside my building, and they're across the street from me. And I just have the concern that I have here is that, you know, one of them is, and I have really 4 questions. The noise concerns me. Will there be any outside, first of all, number one, outside speaker systems where somebody, I know there's not that many employees, what, 20 or so? Yep. Will there be an outside speaker system, a PA system of any sort that would be making announcements saying, hey, Joe, bring in this car or that car?
No, sir, there won't be, and I want to emphasize the point I made earlier. All work takes place inside in a conditioned shop space. The workers like it because not every mom and pop auto repair center has that. So that's how Caliber can set itself aside from others, and they want to make sure that they're a good neighbor, and they don't use loud air guns like I was talking about, all that stuff that you can see with some major automobile repairs. That Caliber's bread and butter is minor fender benders and chip windshields. If you get a dent in your car, they'll go pop it out. They're not looking to store total vehicles for a long time or do any work outside. The only thing is they do store vehicles outside, and all of those vehicles are protected with a privacy screen and that fence. So there's an existing chain link fence there with a sliding gate. So that fence will turn into a privacy fence all the way around. So you won't be able to see any vehicles, there won't be any damaged vehicles in the back. And what happens is they're brought inside, the paint booth, all the bays and all the lifts and everything is all inside. There's no equipment outside. It's only for rotating those cars through and get them in and out as quick as possible.
So and that was one of my questions. Thank you for answering it. You mentioned.
You have an ordinance that's going to handle the parking space requirements and also some improvement in the land over there. Some things that have to be done before they'll get there, right? Okay, so some of the things that you are.
And we'll have it's not a very nice parking lot right now. We're going to fix up the parking lot, make sure it's all asphalt, striped, and professionally done. There's chip paint all along the outside of the building. The whole building is going to get repainted. Nice signage. They're a clean, well-run facility. It's not just like they throw a sign up and the business is taken over. They take pride in making sure the building looks good. And I believe we're adding some trees in the back as well.
And there's another ordinance that addresses what you said about the outside storage as well.
Okay. Yeah, and so that, you know, you're answering my questions. I was going to ask about the renovation, the places, and this is nothing, I don't think I got a right to insist that y'all do anything that's not in the rules, you know, but that's just kind of a question. Are you going to spruce the place up or something? Because it is in need of some sprucing up, and so that was one of my questions, not that I think that's something that y'all owe anybody. But I was worried about, it will be privacy screen, a privacy fence all the way around, because I think y'all may have come by my house and took some pictures or something out in my parking lot this afternoon if I saw a real.
That was me, driving by taking photos.
So you saw from the backyard, you got a pretty good view of that whole back area back there, so it would be good to know that there was going to be a privacy fence in between that, and it sounds like parking will be addressed per whatever the requirements are for, you know, I don't know what, I got a sore spot in my craw about parking because I have a 9,000 square foot building, and they made me put in 30 parking spots because of the square footage of my building, which it's only suited for 20 people. But I had to have it, so I got lots of free extra parking space, and I've had for years, and I fought with it. People from across the road parking in my lot coming over, that they had baseball training facilities operating in the mini storage, and just, I had people literally fighting over parking spaces in my parking lot in the afternoon, so I worry about that. So I guess, and again, that's, y'all don't need to hear that. That's the reason I'm sitting here for 2 or 3 hours tonight, and to come and ask a few questions.
Yeah, I might address your parking concern. So Caliber does have, specific, where that fence is, they have allowed, generally in their stores, it's 12 parking spaces for, whether it's employees, but mostly customers. And Caliber is not generating a whole bunch of customers like Chick-fil-A or some retail. They're not having a bunch of people come through during the day. They'll have people come through, a handful, 10, however many, but they're never filling up all those spots up front. And all of the parking in the back is for damaged vehicles or employee parking if needed. So there is never an issue of them parking on other properties.
Okay. And so I guess, and then the last thing was kind of circling back around to the first thing was just, you know, and I may be thinking about mom and pop shops, but I've seen a lot of mom and pop shops and they leave the doors open and they got the, you know, it doesn't really matter what kind of music it is, country music or whatever, but it's just going really loud. The employees like it and they're happy when they're working and you can hear it all over it doesn't seem like an office park. It doesn't seem like a professional type environment or a business type environment, I guess. And so, I mean, the statement has been that the doors will be closed and that we won't have that issue, I guess, and I guess I think in some of the other cases we're probably going to have to start complaining. We haven't really ever. I'm not a complainer really. I'll go say something to somebody if it bothers me enough, but I really hesitate to call the city enforcement people on somebody, you know, because I respect their property. It's their property, you know, to a point. But so it sounds like there's going to be enough parking, and we're not going to have noise outside. And
we wouldn't even target. This isn't one that's backed up to residential, but we wouldn't even target residential areas if there was a concern of that, because that is the primary concern that people generally have, and we like to assure them at these meetings that the noise is one thing that Caliber is adamant about, that it separates itself from others because all that work takes place in a conditioned space with the doors shut.
Okay, well and it looked like, you know, I read the letter, the project narrative you sent, and it sounds like, I mean, that all sounds really good, and if that's part of the zoning exception that we're talking about, that'll become part of it, and they're going to do these things, I don't have any other questions or issues, so, thank you.
The young man over there can give you the number to the code enforcement officer, and I'll put it in the speed dial, so they don't do what they don't do.
Thank you.
That number.
Now, if you on Most Chapel Road, I would tell you, it doesn't matter what it says. Those people who just pass my house very quickly, the music is so loud. In the rear of my house, I can feel the vibration. And I am really telling you the truth. And I said, what is that? My husband said, it's that guy who lives around the corner. I said, in his car. I said, well, he needs to do something. But now he doesn't travel on our street as much, so I know about that noise.
Well, I have no idea what's going on in the large storage buildings across the street over there, and it changes week by week, but there are painting companies operating out of there, and there's auto detailing, and they're the ones that really make the noise, and then there's the big engine cars that they've got, muscle cars going in and out of the storage buildings over there, you know, that they're working on, and yeah. Well, I just think they're just not asking permission, and like I said, I've hesitated to, you know, to call. I should probably call if it bothers me.
But check on now that we all know, yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for working together.
Yes, absolutely.
We have anybody in the audience who came to inquire or speak to this case? All right. Any phone calls? Did I already say that? Emails? Anything about this case? Well, good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay. All right, at this time, I entertain a motion for approval, case number SE 203003.
Madam Chairman, I move for the case number SE 2023-003, 130 Westchester Road, from Brett Flory, a special request for a special exemption to operate an auto body repair and paint shop in the M1-1 district as authorized in section 4-9-2 of the zoning ordinance. This request is in accordance with the section 10-4 of the City of Madison zoning ordinance.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that in case number SE 2023-003, 130 Westchester Road, Brett Flory, be granted a special exception to operate an auto body repair and paint shop in the M1 district as authorized in section 4-9-2 of the zoning ordinance. Roll call.
Mrs. Fletcher.
Aye.
Ms. Lorenzen.
Aye.
Mrs. Bushman. Mr. Hart.
Aye.
Congratulations. Your request has been granted, and you can see staff about your paperwork. All right, thanks to board members for your participation and your patience, and we're glad that Ms. Brenda is doing better, and the two of us enjoyed our class.
Yes.
You guys couldn't come, but there will be others, so we always encourage you to participate, especially so that if people question our ability and our involvement in what the training that is offered for the city, we can say that we participate. So thank you so very much. And if there are no objections, we are adjourned. Everybody okay?
Look at that.
Okay.
Second. Do it.
I'll put this in here, and I'm going to be sure.